Good evening. It's me again tonight. I bring you a story whispered across the misty waters of Blackstone Lake. A story long buried beneath secrets, superstitions, and silence. But now, it emerges. This is not just another ghost story. This is a curse, wrapped in vines, sealed in stone, and awakened by those who dare return. So sit down, lock your door, and whatever you do, don't look out the window, because this is the story of the curse of Blackstone Lake. Before we begin, if you're still brave enough to stay, click subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who dares listen after midnight, and tell us in the comments, would you spend a night by the lake? Old Man Lou lived in a small wooden cabin just outside the villa. Each morning, when he opened his eyes, the very first thing he did was flip over a page of the small desk calendar. Saturday, July 13th, 2002. That was the date. Once a week, someone would send him daily supplies by boat. So when he heard the distant whir of a speedboat engine echoing through the sunset, he guessed it was probably one of those Elutia types. He stepped away from the edge of the water, through the thick patches of grass and trees, across the uneven path. There it stood, directly in front of him, the white European-style villa, its dark crimson spires rising above the treetops, visible even from across the lake. Half his body faded into the gathering dusk, the other still caught in the last golden light of the day. And that light reflected off the tall, sealed windows of the villa, gleaming like the eyes of a ghost staring back. Old Lou quietly hid an old Han Dynasty mirror inside his coat. It was a hollow mirror, a mirror of emptiness. The villa itself had 4 stories, including the attic, more than 20 rooms, countless halls, narrow passageways, a gym corridor, spiral staircases. It was easy to get lost in there. What was once a paradise for its master was now just a prison, cursed by a spell so powerful no one could speak its name. It was said the master was bound to die on this island by that curse, like the corpse of an aristocrat whose soul had long since fled, now waiting, just waiting for love, or perhaps permission to stay. Old Lou tried not to think of the past, not that past, not the horrors, not Winnie Yu. She was the one who blackened the crimson peaks of the villa's roof. From behind every window, especially at night, you could sometimes see faint silhouettes swaying behind the curtains. And then, the screams, blood-curdling, inhuman. No one knew exactly what had happened in those rooms, but from the pale, withered look on the master's face, Old Lou knew. He knew it was something terrible. He remembered when the monks were invited in. They came, stayed the night, walked the halls, but by morning the decision had been made. The master would abandon the villa. That night the lake was deathly silent. A fog rolled in from the water, drifting slowly, swallowing the island whole. Old Lou sat outside his cabin, glass of rice wine in hand. The stone table beneath him was cold. The night, colder. Sometimes he'd stroke his beard unconsciously, like a habit passed from another life. The truth was, Old Lou wasn't old. He was only 44, but everyone in the lake village called him the Old Man because of the beard, and maybe the silence he carried. His nickname was the Paparazzi. Only the master knew why. 30 years ago, Lou was just a curious young man. He followed his teacher everywhere, fascinated by intellectuals from the city. The master back then wasn't even 20. Lou had seen things, heard things. There were rumors of a boy from the city, a violinist, handsome, quiet, whose father had once cried for mercy. They said that boy had been saved by a great benefactor, someone powerful. They also whispered about a secret form of martial arts, one that vanished from history. Old Lou sipped his wine, Memories blurred into the bitterness. Back when the master still lived on this island, the little paparazzi clapped his hands once. Someone once joked he was probably quitting alcohol. Again, that poor student rolled on the bed in pain. And since that night, since he was saved by the master's father, he hadn't been able to sleep without alcohol. That night, Lou had run over 10 kilometers with the boy on his back, whispering through his teeth, trying not to cry. He flagged down a passing truck and rushed the boy to the county hospital. It was acute appendicitis. Minutes later, he might have died. Since then, the boy had returned to the city. But Lou stayed behind. The lake, by now, was swallowed in night. Only the waters near the island shimmered faintly under the moon. More than 3 years had passed. "I've built a villa," the master once told Lou. "You'll be the guardian now." That's how it started. That's how Lou became the soul of a forgotten island. Sometimes he would stroke his beard absent-mindedly. In truth, old Lou was only 44, but everyone, both on and off the lake, called him Old Man Lou, all because of that thick graying beard. His nickname was Paparazzi. Only the master knew why. 30 years ago, he had been a curious young man. He followed his teacher everywhere, intrigued by the city's intellectual youth. Back then, the master wasn't even 20. The father of one young journalist had once wept with gratitude. A student from the city, he played the viola beautifully, was said to have been saved by a great benefactor. Some even whispered of a secret martial art long lost to time. Lou took a small sip of wine. That's what helped him stay in the countryside, back when the master still lived here on this island. That little paparazzi once clapped in celebration, someone once said. He worked tirelessly through the night, almost gave up drinking completely. But the truth was that well-educated young man would often writhe in pain on his bed. Ever since being saved by the master's father, he couldn't sleep in the empty house, not without a drink in his hand. One night, Lou carried the boy on his back for over 10 kilometers, whispering under his breath, his voice raw. He flagged down a truck and got him to the county hospital. It was appendicitis, acute and dangerous. If they had waited any longer, the boy would have died. Of course, when Lou drank, he couldn't hear any of that. After that, the young man returned to the city, but Lou stayed behind. He often came back to the countryside to visit. By then, the lake was always veiled in darkness. That was over 3 years ago. Only the part of the island closest to shore shimmered faintly on the water surface. The master had once told the reporter, "I've built a villa. Come work security for me." That was when Lou first heard the voice, a voice nearby. At the same moment, he handed the reporter's father a large sum of money. "Why is there no road here?" someone asked. "Because this land is meant to pass from one generation to the next," Lou replied. He hoped the voice he'd just heard wasn't what he thought it was. A young woman's voice. It had become a small bungalow near the base of the villa. And then, a scream. A man's voice echoed through the trees. "There's nothing haunted about this place. What are you so afraid of?" Lou's heart clenched. The alcohol in his system seemed to vanish instantly. He stood up, staring into the woods and the tall grass. He saw them, a young couple walking toward him. The man was shirtless, a t-shirt slung across his shoulder. The woman wore tight jeans and a black jacket. Something about it felt wrong. People weren't supposed to show up here, not at night, not on this abandoned island. Lou wanted to greet them, but his lips refused to move. He trembled but couldn't make a sound. The young woman spoke first. "We'd like to stay here tonight." Lou looked at her face, delicate, beautiful, but her eyes were strange, too still, too calm. His eyebrows tightened. Something was off. "No," Lou said firmly. "This is a private villa." Still, something stirred in his gut. He couldn't tell if the woman was human or something else. Later, Lou would believe he'd been cursed that night. Why else would he have said yes? Why else would he have allowed them to stay? They claimed to be tourists. They said they got lost on a small electric boat while exploring Blackstone Lake. Maybe the crimson spires of the villa drew them in. But Lou knew better. Their story didn't add up. The lake's edge was over an hour away by speedboat. No ordinary electric boat could have reached this island by accident. But it was late, too dark to send them back. The woman pleaded softly. Maybe it was something in her voice. Maybe something evil had crept into Lou's thoughts. But that night, for the first time in his life, he agreed. They were allowed to stay, only on the first floor, near the living room, never upstairs. Lou was very clear. That room, he said, used to belong to the old maid. You'll stay there, that's it. He figured the master wouldn't be too angry. Upstairs was off limits. Only VIPs ever had access to the upper floors. Lou led the couple up the villa steps. His hand brushed the cold brass handle on the door. A chill ran down his spine. That night, he slept surprisingly well. It had been a year since someone lived next door. Perhaps having neighbors brought him peace. The villa didn't frighten him that night. Lou woke to the sound of birds. The sky was cloudy, the morning air crisp. He opened the cabin door and stepped outside. The villa door was still closed. The couple was still sleeping, perhaps. But something felt wrong. What happened next? The local papers told the rest. In a remote part of the Haishi Lake scenic area, a young man and woman were found dead inside a private villa on the island. Their deaths were strange, unnatural. It looked like they tried to escape before they died. One body was found at the foot of the door, arms reaching for the handle. The other lay on the staircase. Perhaps he died while running, either up or down. Their expressions twisted in sheer horror, like they'd seen something no one was meant to see, something no one was meant to survive. So now you know what truly sleeps beneath the surface of Blackstone Lake and what happens when silence is disturbed. If you made it this far, perhaps you're not afraid of the dark. But remember, fear doesn't always knock. Sometimes it waits just behind the mirror. Like this video if your heartbeat changed. Subscribe if you want more haunted tales delivered to your screen. And comment below, would you stay one night at Blackstone Lake? Until next time, don't look back. Good night, if you can sleep.